Eishatoko hesena hitia shato osama aita isiki itia san. Iasoko holua hesemoatiki yashiteka. Yutua hasa. Temia hotoko hase. Penua hesetoko so. Peo loko tahana yata. Me hatuko hosea luata hosea sa. Beo toko bahasanua heoloa kreti. Me mana hotoko hosata sa. Me atoko homehati. Be hatuko hosa. Be haluana hasea sa. Bitwa. That was just a little opening invocation, if you will. There's some energy coming through, some vibes that want to be relayed for the current collective energy surge that is happening right now around this time frame, which it's 8/8 right now as I'm recording, but we're also in the precursor, kind of like the pre-build to the full moon peak, which is swiftly coming through. And we also are in the midst of a very significant primordial reset surge coming in from the macrocosm, which is activating our capacity to tap into our origin and our totality on a more macrocosmic scale. Also digging up a whole lot of abandonment wounding, parental wounding, kind of vibes, avoidance energies, deconstruction of false structures and systems and mindsets, a diversification and a complexification of energy. But that's really, it's part of the primordial reset surge, but that's even more locally amplified and significant because of Vivify mechanism surges that are happening within our planetary system, and so we're all experiencing that as well. And so the Vivify mechanics, most significantly the Vivify capsule mechanics, which kind of it encompasses the source seed for one, and it is a void and source cohesion and complexification zone, and has a lot of different purposes that I don't quite want to get into at this current moment, but it is kind of a space holder and a melting pot of your primordial archetypes. In particular, though, it is the closest thing to a foundational void mechanism structure as most humans on Earth are programmed to perceive void energetics. You can kind of think about it as a void well within your soul body, but there's lots of other micro mechanics that are extensions of it, and more specialized functions, but that's been coming online and activating. We also are having wow, I didn't know I was going to get into all of this. I guess we're having like a pre-dish, and we're having foundational mechanism activations. We haven't had the full system, including the Choreos mechanics, but we haven't had them all online at the same time since the spring eclipse. Around the spring eclipse season, we had a spike in surge of these activations across all foundational soul mechanism systems, and you can check my beginners masterclass if you need like a refresher on the foundational soul mechanism systems. Yeah, we have them all activating all at one time, but especially because back around the spring eclipse, we didn't have the primordial reset pattern was still way out in the anchor universe. It wasn't even in our cosmolocal region at that point. So we've had a very significant surge of that energy patterning that reached us very quick for macrocosmic pattern ratios. And so we've been having, with that added on top of it, this is like the full soul mechanism activation surge that happened back around the spring eclipses, particularly like in the middle, in between them, leaning towards the second eclipse. And but it's like times 10 because we've also been having solar flares, a lot of that precursor energy that was happening around the eclipses, and even was really ramping up around the solstice. We've been in a steady surge and ramp up since the solstice, and so all of these foundations have been being set really for years, but especially the past year and the past like 3 to 4 months, to get us to the point now where we're having like complexification and an expansion of our potential. Basically, all of the foundations have been being set so that we had the right, so that we were both totally destabilized, which you could argue that we're still getting there, while also stabilized enough in other ways in our internal development, especially because of so many of us who had huge surges and activations and deepenings in our spiritual growth, starting especially in 2020, but even like maybe back around 2015 or so. There's kind of like this perfect storm of a lot of people in the collective had these big reality checks and dark nights of the soul, and huge spiritual awakenings and deepenings in order to be present and anchored, but expanded, and kind of ready in a way for this more widespread destabilization, where we kind of have this lovely contradictory collision happening right now that is really allowing for some powerful catalytic development for us to write the trajectory for new patterns, new archetypes, new potentials that are outside of the same corrupted, distorted loops of patterns that when you kind of look back through history, and even the more cosmic history of this region, there's a lot of patterns that have looped, and this is kind of a moment in time that is significant, not just for us here on Earth, but in our local our cosmolocal region and even elsewhere. There's a really significant surge, especially in this region, where we're able to connect on a more diverse and deep and nuanced way that we haven't been able to in a remarkably long time. And that has been kind of unlocked for not just us here on Earth, but more particularly for us here on Earth, especially as we're in the cohesion to rebellion stage, which, you know, obviously I talk about in the Macro Symposia membership, and with my private clients, these different patterns and surges that are happening more macrocosmically and impacting us here. We're in the what I term the cohesion to rebellion stage, and with this stage that's happening right now, we're having like profound transformation of expectations, clearing of mirages has been like a big theme, and shake up in our social structures, and everything is going topsy-turvy. This is also part of the chaos timeline cluster trajectory. The potential for the symphony timeline cluster is on the kind of far horizon, but in the achievable horizon. But part of getting to there is deprogramming any level of fear or resistance to the chaos timeline cluster being a bad thing, and reclaiming the wisdom and the energy of chaos to reclaim more harmony, and rewrite a lot of the programming and fear-mongering that has been embedded into, this is also linked in with the Vivify shifts and the void energetics and the reclamation and the restoration of a more harmonious and non-hierarchical perspective of void energies, and even more shadow-based or fog-based energetics and realms and beings and parts within our own soul bodies. And that's why we're also having a lot of purging of shame and guilt and resentment energies, and a lot of these really distorted and misunderstood emotions and energies, and a lot of our avoidance and repression patterns as a collective. That's why so many things in our personal lives and in the broader political sphere and everything like that is really reaching these these colliding pressure cooker turning points, or points of no return. The primordial reset is linked to that too. Lots of point of no return threshold crossings, where you kind of can't put it back in the box anymore. You can't repress it anymore. You can't avoid it anymore. You kind of have to deal with what is happening around you. And so that's coming up in so many ways. So all of this is colliding and coinciding and surging around this current collective time frame. And I really technically came on here to do some energy work / soul language channeling, transmissions, and or just kind of whatever came through. But had to share that with you. This kind of the insight. I'm gonna have a little sip of my drink, and then we'll see what else wants to come through for however long it wants to come through. we're currently in the process of reconnecting what I'm now currently terming the unlost regions, areas in our universe, this anchor universe in particular, that we as a collective have forgotten that we're connected to, not just here on Earth, but even other areas, or that is on the tip of your tongue that you have been there before, or that there's that one place that you were there that one time, but you can't quite put your finger on who or what or where it was, and it feels like a intangible mirage, these different regions, and so some of them are in the process of coming back online, and so currently we are anchoring a lot of our foundational activations and mechanism developments, and kind of securing our fluid stability as these final remnants are being anchored of this reunification with our more complex macrocosm, which some of this you can come ask questions and we can get into more in the membership that I host, just because I already have a lot of material there, and that's the place where you get the backstage passes and the shift tracker insights and some of the extra details and things. Right, Zipper? I know. Alright, she's telling me to stop yapping. It's time to do some energy work. I know you've been waiting so patiently. My chaos child is also asleep over here. I know. Okay. Let's see what else wants to come through. A little bit more channeled. And I'm currently multi-located in a few different places, but particularly my Macrocosmic Archives office, which similar to the idea of the Akashic Records. Also tuned in with the primordial universe, the fans, my macro soul. Seeing what needs to come through with this energy surge for insight and resonance, keys and codes and riddles and insights and weavings. Palma hitika hisimia toko hosu du hishimia hatoko hoseo toko wasata. Bemoa hata hisika itai hasemo holdiki sitika hasante asata. Benwa hisiki tika ishanda hata. Behosati Shita Hashata Shindyata. Yeah, this is the year that is tipping the scales of caretakership, leadership across the collective. A point of no return threshold being crossed to reclaim a more rebalanced delineation of those the planetary and cosmic collective deem as the leaders and the caretakers of this planetary home. This is coming first as in more regional, local areas, the redistribution and the reclamation of community power. Is playing such a significant role across the various patterns, across the various regions on our globe. The synchronicity webs have been reweaving. Communal soul groups recalibrating and reorienting. Temporary soul groups dissolving to find their more harmonious and expanded soul groups. Remember that as timelines collapse and converge and rewrite, it's fueled by different parallel universes, Earths, and U's collapsing and converging into this one, or being fully transmuted and transformed into new purpose, new mechanisms, new potentials. And with this happening, the soul groups shift and evolve. Souls that didn't have prominent consciousness in what you deem as this version of Earth may have been anchoring and preparing mechanics, experiences, wisdoms, and other energies with more prominent consciousness presence in one of the other universes, Earth's U's. And this, that was collapsed and converged into this one. And vice versa. There's so many different parts and aspects of you and your soul. The symphony and complexity of it all. Same as with everyone around you. And sometimes We need different parts of people for different parts of our experience. And sometimes, as things shift and evolve, as we move deeper into an anchored trajectory, as we stabilize in a universe of sequence, state of expression, with the capacity for much more consciousness depth and nuance, complexity, the patterns that we need from others and that they need from us are also evolving. And so it will be necessary from this peak surge moving forward to keep this in mind. And to be open to the ebb and flow and even expansion of your communal webs. Both across this planetary residence and across the macrocosm. Part of the reason for so much hierarchy and discord and dysfunction in our planetary home is because of the isolation and isolation and what's the word that's trying to come through? Simplification of our social groups. It's both important to have strong webs and interactions with those tangibly around you, and a diversity of connections outside of your point of view and physical region. And to intentionally practice cultivating that. Echo chambers are one of the most dangerous, and I use that term loosely, but you know, one of the more dangerous things that can happen to your soul development, especially over the next year or so. You want to be very intentional and present and fluid in your social engagement, communal bonding. And explorative and expansive with it. Yeah, it may be smaller and more maybe more intimate bonds. But it's important that there's different vantage points within your web. And that if there aren't, then that means that you're keeping you're probably, not always, you're probably keeping your soul group webs at a dysfunctional level of isolation. But something to practice and explore. Pattern to pay attention to. Obviously, they made a big focus on that. Pro tips from a macro view. Benoye sikiti asani takata hasutu hasutu yutuko hasamia takahishiti asano hatia sheto hasu. Benoit Hassan. Betwaka simia tuka simia tiki si tu sen kete se to samia taka he to san. Pero to ko humia ti si to ko humia ta hasia tiki shetia da. Pelo hasinia taka shitia to hasha. I feel like I need to close this out with a little bit of the rain stick. hisikieta hasamyo tuko haset wa haset wa ipaita she. Inma hase tuko hasantia tuko hase. Pinwa hase tuko hasan. Tokwa pedwa haser wa hisietwa. Bema. Till next time.